You're listening to Mentoring Developers. I think empathy is a key word here. Mm-hmm. I really believe in this because the problem is that we all come with our own baggages. Right? We all have our histories. We have strengths and weaknesses. We're not alike. And this whole idea of cultural fit, where companies hire for a quote unquote fit. And what that implies is if there are 5 people on the team and they need to hire a 6th person, all 5 people have to say, this is just like us.
Right.
And so they just want to have a clone of what they already have. And this means that there's no diversity of thought. And these kids, a lot of times they're young, early 20s, mid 20s at best. They don't know how to deal with people. They don't have people skills.
Right.
And you put them together and give them control over hiring and in some cases firing. And then you have this monoculture where you won't have any minorities. You won't have any, perhaps any older people. Perhaps you won't have any women. And if you do, then these kids, some of them, they don't know the difference between a bar and a club and a workplace. Because, now everywhere you can get beer and alcohol. So I go to companies and they have fully stocked beer, refrigerators full of beers. And, the people work late. If you're working at 8 at night, 8 p.m., it's dark, you're drinking beer, your music is blaring, and you're working with women. How's that any different from a bar?
Right.
And then if they start to act inappropriately, then, well, why are you surprised?
Right.
And this is, I think, what we are developing is this culture, what are they called? Bromance? What is it called again? Bro culture? Some culture where it's okay to be a douchebag.
Yeah.
And so obviously, if you are a woman and maybe you're conservative, maybe you're religious, maybe you're a minority, maybe you're just a foreigner, maybe you're different. These people are going to say, well, no, it doesn't really fit in. And and if you end up hiring that person, it creates this crazy, environment. I think for me, it's hilarious. I've seen, I don't want to go on a rant, but I know about these really highly respectable software developers in positions of power. They go to a conference and then they go to a bar and then it's late and they drink and then they do really horrible things to their female subordinates. And then it blows up and everybody's like, they don't know what to do.
Right. Yeah, I've seen that happen countless times. I've probably been a part of that. I could probably name a dozen situations that I've been in where things were out of hand and shouldn't have gone there. And that's something that I'm actively working against at this point in my career. But I think what you said about younger kids in that situation is, and not understanding how to deal with other people is kind of hitting one of the big problems there, because when I was in my early 20s and going into small teams and smaller companies, there was a lot of, let's hire younger kids and let's hire all men and let's, just keep it all the same, because it was easier for me and the few other people that I worked with to bring in somebody that looked like us and thought like us and talked like us. And looking back on things, I'm glad that there were older people in the environments that I was in who prevented that monoculture from really setting in and taking hold. At that manufacturing company I worked for, there were it was probably about 40% women in the IT department, and most of the employees in that IT department were older to begin with. They were, often in their 50s. Some of them were in their 60s, and here I was, this 21-year-old kid in this department and trying to hire other kids my age. And so there was a lot of checks and balances in that particular company. Another larger company that I worked for was doing a lot of military contracting, and there are legal requirements for doing government work in terms of diversity that you have to meet. And this company went above and beyond any and all diversity requirements by making it a very active policy to hire people that were not a quote cultural fit, but people that would bring new and unique perspectives. So we had, young people and old people. We had men, we had women, we had Hispanics, we had Black people. We had this wide range of diversity throughout the whole company, including in the software development ranks. And it was not always a pleasant situation, because there was a lot of white guys in the software development area and testing area, especially, that had that, bro kind of culture of drinking and weightlifting and all that kind of stuff. It was a lot of ex-military people as well, which brings its own cultural problems with gender and gender roles and things like that. So there were some real issues there, but I think overall it was a positive experience, because we had women and minorities in leadership roles, especially when we had women as project managers and team leads. Then those were some of the most successful projects I've ever been on. They produced the best results. They had the best team experiences, and getting that diversity in there is something that's become really important to me in the last few years. And I saw somebody tweeting about this recently who said, introducing diversity into a team is not about removing whiteness. It's about introducing reality, because the reality is that the world is made up of far more than just, white guys like me in these small startups. It's a very diverse culture out there, and the vast majority of people that are going to use your software are not going to look like me.
Yeah, and you're not going to lose productivity. Mm-hmm. I think some companies have this idea that if they have early 20s kids who don't have any responsibilities, who don't need a lot of money, they'll work for less money, mm-hmm. and they'll work for beer, basically.
Right.
It's hilarious, because they're being taken advantage of.
Yep.
And in the end, the end product is not necessarily any better.
Right.
And like you said, usability, user experience, all of this, you have to take into account your customer base. Mm-hmm. And if your customers are diverse, your developers, it's a good idea to keep them diverse as well.